Well, again, that's been one of my strongest pushes. I have been a very strong advocate for trying to help get teachers raises. In the 4 years I did serve on the board, we did finally get the teachers a very nice raise at that point in time. We had a balanced budget. It was actually balanced. We had put money, 130 million back in the savings for our contingency fund. So we had hired auditors, and we were doing, we actually were able to release 1,700 employee positions that were able, non-essential jobs or areas, so we dropped that. So all of that being said, what I will do is I will continue to push for that. I will continue to push for a balanced budget for teacher raises and making sure the teacher morale is lifted.
In my own world, I've been a teacher for so long, and you know, I know so many principals. So when I go into a school, which is just about every week, a few schools, I sit down with the teachers, and I've always been able to talk to them and the principals, and that goes a long way, by the way. It's just very important that they trust that where that school board member or where that leader is heading is in their interest. So building trust it's a very valid word. I also find ways to, and I put this down, but 3 weeks ago, teachers and I were talking about, because they're covering classes that they don't have any conference period, they don't have any planning period. And one of the teachers suggested, Lynn, what about the T payroll? Because many of us are not getting a planning period, and it's been, you know, guidance counselors do not. They're just totally without any relaxation. So, you know, I'm going to bring that forward. I also know that I'm going to want them in committees where when we have a workshop, I don't know if you're familiar, but every other Tuesday we have a workshop. It's only on audio now. But I want the teachers, plural, to be recognized and in those meetings, because the eyes and ears of the teacher are the reality that's happening. And the closer, I mean, I know more because I've been there, but every board member should have equal amount of information that, you know, affects policy making and, you know, it affects the actual language. The fiscal reality of low paying, it's never really gets better. I never made much money when I was a teacher, and but I love what I was doing. But there is a question of fairness, and how much we give to our teachers obviously shouldn't be just for our beginning teachers, because us veteran teachers, you know, we've been there and we paid our dues. So, I mean, it needs to be more equalized. But also, we need to have lending practices with the partnership of Suncoast Credit and the housing industry. So, you know, some of these apartment folks, the owners, we can get lower interest rates for our teachers that are coming in. And I mean, that's real. Some of the districts have done this. And I mean, I'm actually working on that idea as well. But I think the teacher input, like a leadership academy, why aren't we teaching our teachers, say you have friends that are teachers that want to become an administrator? I mean, I've heard about it before, we've talked about it, but cannot we, I mean, this is done in different districts, have an absolute leadership academy, not only for teachers, but our staff. Some of our custodians might want to be leaders. So every time we bring people up, you get more work and more, you know, trust in the organization. I might not be popular with this because I have a big no on this. I am very much, being a mom and a grandmother, and just being in the classroom for so many years, kids, especially middle school kids, they'll make so many mistakes, and a lot of times it's the reactionary behavior from the teacher that can escalate or de-escalate a riff. I mean, I've had a situation where one boy, it was a football team class, by the way, some electives get to be didn't get to be a sports class, but anyway, they were pretty big guys. And one picked the guy up. It was a track guy who was slim, and then there was a football guy. Picked him up, and they must have had a little fight going on in the words. And then before I knew it, they were up, and one just kind of almost tossed him through the wall. So, but the other kids came in and said, "Hey, man, simmer down, da da da." But if I put together all the occasions where kids are kids and they make mistakes, they say the wrong things, and maybe they slam a book down and it hits somebody by mistake, I mean, that can ignite a reaction right there. So if you're going to pull a gun out in a very tense situation, that to me is asking for disaster. And I don't mind the drills, although I'm not even for the K through 5 drills. Some of these kids have trauma, these little people, and I know that for a fact. But we have the drills. I don't mind preventative, of course not, and I don't mind having those safeguards of fortify, and then the camera in the room, and resource officers. But I have to say, I have to put my foot down on the guns.
Absolutely not. They're teachers. Teachers are caregivers. Teachers are giving. Excuse me. So teachers have so much compassion and love for kids. They do not need to be guards. They do not need to be armed, and they don't need the stress of worrying about the safety of the children. That's our job in administration. That's another avenue. Teachers need to be allowed to teach. Well, I do know the district is reaching out right now, and especially after the pandemic, we're going to see a lot more depression. We're seeing already a lot more potential suicides. We're seeing teenagers really stressed to the hilt. Not only the teenagers, we're seeing teachers. We are seeing people in general. So my first push right now, and it is one of the things that I'm coming back trying to improve, is I really feel we need to work on coping skills. We need to give the children and the teachers and the families coping skills to be able to cope with these issues that they're coming. We need to have stronger emphasis. I think, this is my own personal opinion, I think if we got more activity in middle schools, because middle school is an issue. It's an issue with the kids. I mean, I could just spend a whole day talking to you about middle school issues. And the problem is that we took the major sports out of middle school years ago, and we put back intramural sports. But remember the club days? Remember when the kids got to have special interest groups? If they like to play checkers, they got to play checkers. If they want to be cheerleaders, they could go learn cheerleading. That, when we took that away in our middle schools have no reason to be there. They don't like it. Their hormones are going crazy, and they need to have special interest activities that pull them into the school, that build teaming, build family, that whole families would come and watch the sports. That's what we have to do. When you talk about mental health, we have to teach everybody how to regulate their emotions. We have to help the teachers to help the students learn how to regulate their emotions. And then we have to give them the coping skills to move on. So I have great ideas on that one.
Being on the legislative committee last year, I lobbied to have a lower ratio of kids per guidance counselor. So right now, for example, we're up to 600 or 700 per counselor. And at least when I went to school years ago, and even when I was teaching, it might have been 300, which to me is way too much anyway. But the ratio has gone completely awry, and it's not effective. I mean, these guidance counselors right now are test givers, and have been since late 1889 when we came up with the FCAT. So additional guidance counselors. Also, we're seeing from this COVID, kids who are home since March, in a domestic situation where there's loud voices, not very nice, family members don't get along, a lot of our children are coming to school with, they're so angry, they bottled it up, and they're so compounded with emotional anger, is the only way I can put it, that they have not found, they have to relearn strategies to be just a kid. And teachers tell me this, and I'm, I know what we need. We need more social workers, and that's, they're incredible. They're one of my favorite people, guidance counselors and mental health. But we have a real problem right now with COVID making it even worse. And I think also our family resource centers need to be more than not, and need to be identifying children, but parents who need to have a mental health counselor to talk to them with their child. It's a time and age that we can't be where we used to be anymore. We have to make radical changes, and it's more than time.